What's going on, everybody? My name is FlameHorizon, your coach of the Minnesota Lycanrocs, and we are here with IBL Season 8. I know I didn't upload the last of Season 7, however, we did not do too well in the end of the season. I actually ended up getting the second worst record overall, so I had the number 2 draft pick. But this season, we're going to come back, we're going to do great, because I believe I have drafted a great team, except for one thing, which I'll discuss at the end. However, I'm not going to waste any of your time. Just go ahead and leave a like down below if you are excited for IBL Season 8. Subscribe if you are new, and we'll get right into the draft. So the first pick, since I was number 2 in the draft, and before the draft we were discussing bans and what was going to be allowed and what wasn't, and my plan was to go Chlorophyll, Gigantamax, Venusaur. However, the rest of the league decided that that was too powerful. So I was not allowed to get that. So instead of getting probably one of the most broken Pokemon that could have been in the game, I went with one of the next best things and decided to get Charizard Gmax as the second pick overall in the draft. Some people might be thinking I'm a little crazy, because both of the Urshifus were allowed, Melmetal was there. But I got to thinking and I was realizing, Charizard's just like a really good Gmax. It's got max Airstream, it has Scorching Sands now, so it's able to fire off a special attacking max Quake. It has, the max Wildfire, which is busted. The 1/6 damage, residual damage over 5 turns is just busted. That can basically wear out an entire Pokemon by itself. It also has access, like I said, max Airstream, so it gets a speed boost. It has access to the max Solar Beam, so it can fire off a Grass-type move against potential Water-type switch-ins and Ground-type and Rock-type switch-ins. And if I wanted to run a physical set, I could run Belly Drum with a Pinch Berry or with Citrus Berry, and then max and get up, say like a max Fly or whatever max flying move I want to get that's physical, and then just sweep. I could run a Dragon Dance set and then max and sweep. Gigantamax Charizard just does stuff. It just clicks buttons, and I can just, slap heavy-duty boots on it so it doesn't take rocks damage, and then Gigantamax Charizard just pushes buttons. I did lose 40 of my free points drafting it, but come on, how was I going to pass up something this amazing? So going into my next pick, I was sitting down and I'm like, I just want a really good bulky water that's also like a really good support Pokemon. So I was looking through all the tiers, and I realized in Tier 2, this thing is quite the steal. I believe it was Tier 2 at least, I could be wrong. But sitting there in Tier 2, which in my opinion this should be a Tier 1, the fact that it's Tier 2 now that it gets Flip Turn thanks to Isle of Armor, it's unbelievably insane. I decided to pick up Starmie. Now that this thing gets Flip Turn, it basically gets free natural cure healing whenever it Flip Turns out. It also, has Rapid Spin, Recover. It's got a decent special attack stat sitting at, I believe, base 100 special attack. It has base 115 speed, so it's a really good speed tier. And its HP stat isn't too high. However, when you run max HP and max speed, this thing just kind of eats hits and then uses Recover and just fixes itself really, really easily. I've used this before in multiple leagues in the past. Starmie's never really let me down. It comes in, it takes hits, and it handles the threats that it needs to handle well, even with no special attack investment. This thing is an absolute monster. It gets Scald, it has Psychic, it has Psy Shock if you need that. It also gets Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, so it has Bolt Beam coverage, which not a lot of mons have that, but the fact that this does, I could run Bolt Beam, Recover, and Rapid Spin, and just hit everything. Nothing resists Bolt Beam. Overall, I believe Starmie pairs really well with Charizard, because if I need to, if I'm not running heavy-duty boots, this thing can spin away rocks, and then Charizard can come in free after a Flip Turn. So I could spin away rocks, Flip Turn out, and then I get the free in for Charizard. For my next pick, I was looking through and I realized I need a really hard-hitting Pokemon. So sitting there looking through and I realized, oh, there's another steal of a Tier 2. I believe it's Tier 2. I don't think it's Tier 1. Another steal of a Tier 2, especially this generation because of the move that it got. Being able to fire off Choice Banded First Impressions from, I believe, a base 147 attack stat. I decided to go with Haxaris. Now Haxaris, as you all know, just fires off Choice Banded First Impressions like no other. However, the Dragon Dance set is just a very nice set. Nothing really does too well against the Dragon Dance set, Other than like fairy types that are already just kind of sitting there, like you have to pick the right Pokemon to set up on with Haxaris, in my opinion. But if you are able to set up on that Pokemon, you just win. Haxaris, once it gets to at least +1, even if you can get it to +2. +1 is normally enough. +2, yeah, nothing's living a +2 hit from a base of 147 attack stat. There isn't much, maybe like Ferrothorn, but even then, Ferrothorn isn't going to do too much back. Haxaris just goes very well with my other two as well. Being able to come in and clean up like the grass types that Starmie can't handle, being able to come in and pick up KOs on Pokemon that are just a little bit away from being KO'd, so that way Charizard can come in and clean up shop. And it's just an overall wall breaker, choice banded Haxaris. Expect that a lot, expect the setup sweeper a lot, expect, you know, Life Orb first impression. I can do a lot of stuff with Haxaris. I'm very excited to use it. I've never used it in League before, so this is going to be a first for me. So I was sitting there looking, and I hadn't drafted my tier 1 yet. I drafted my Gmax, I drafted a tier 2, and then another tier 2 in one of my free slots. And I was sitting there looking, and nobody had picked this up, and I've never used this in League, but I've seen it do only good things, and I didn't want to go against it myself. I decided to pick up Gengar in round 4, or really nice tier 1 Pokemon there in round 4. You might have just heard a door open outside my room, but that's okay. And Gengar is really, really fast. I believe it's base 110 speed, base 130 special attack, really frail, so it's really glass cannon-y. However, it's got really good coverage. Nasty Plot, I believe this generation, it might have already had Nasty Plot, but Nasty Plot's a really good set with it. I could run like Will-O-Wisp, Hex, Destiny Bond if I wanted to be mean. It loses Levitate, which, you know, is normally beneficial. Like Gen 6 Gengar was really good, but Gen 7 and Gen 8 losing Levitate, it's not as good, but it's still one of the premier spin blockers because it can come in on a rapid spin and set up depending on the Pokemon. Gengar overall is my special wall breaker. I can slap a choice specs on this thing and it can clean up shop. So my next pick coming up, I wanted to round off my Fire, Water, Grass core, and I also wanted another spinner to pair well with Charizard because I want to keep rocks off the field as much as possible so that way Charizard doesn't have to worry about running boots all the time. Because if I'm relying on boots every week, I can't, you know, use the item effectively. So I decided to go with a grass type spinner, and part of me was like, oh, I could go Delmise, but then I remembered I had another ghost type. But Serena was sitting right there. So I just decided, you know, might as well grab Serena. Serena seems like a really fun Pokemon to use. I've used it before and I love it. It's got really good coverage with Trop Kick, Play Rough, High Jump Kick. It's Bounce if I wanted to run that. And, you know, Rapid Spin's always good. But it also gets moves like Leech Seed, and it has some good support moves. I believe it can put things to sleep. Editing me will prove me wrong if I remember to edit this in. But overall, Serena is a really good addition to my team. It pairs really well with Starmie and Charizard, and that is my Fire, Water, Grass core. And I have the start of a Dragon Fairy Steel core, but you will see as time goes on, like I said at the beginning, there's a flaw in my draft, but that gets fixed. After Serena, I was, you know, just kind of looking through the board, wondering what I wanted, and I'm like, okay, well, let me grab a Steel type, and there was a really good Steel type just sitting there, and it did use another one of my free slots, but I really like this Pokemon, and I think it pairs really well with Starmie, and I think it pairs really well with Haxaris. I decided to go with Bisharp. Now, Bisharp doesn't resist fairy moves. It will take neutral damage from fairy moves, which is kind of thing you want your Steel type to take as fairy moves. However, having these Sucker Punch plus Knockoff plus Iron Head plus Swords Dance, this kind of prevents people from using webs against me. And not only does it prevent people from using webs against me, it'll prevent people from defogging away my own hazards. Because if they try to defog away my hazards, I can send in Bisharp on the defog and get that free +2, and just out of nowhere we have a Bisharp that's ready to knock off spam, Sucker Punch spam, Iron Head spam. Like, this thing can come in and will clean up shop. I could run like Scarf and just come in on a defog, or come in on an Intimidate and get a free +1 instead of a +2, and Bisharp is a really good cleanup. It's a really good cleanup option. It hits things that are weakened really hard. I believe it has base 120 attack. On the slide that you see, I'll have the stats and everything portrayed. So I'm really excited to use Bisharp this season. I think it pairs really well with my team, and it's overall just a good cleanup Pokemon. So now I have Charizard, Starmie, Haxaris, Serena, and Bisharp. I believe those are the 5 that have been shown. And going into my next pick, after Bisharp, I was like, okay, what's a tier 3 that I want? And I like using ice types, because ice type is one of my favorite types, even though it's bad. And this Pokemon has Aurora Veil plus Hail now, so I thought, I could bring Veil some weeks. Veil would be really fun to use on my team. So I decided to pick up Vanillix, and mainly just for the Veil usage, but Vanillix is also quite bulky for an ice type, so it could live some hits better than most ice types. Firing off blizzards and the hail. It's mainly just there for Veil. I don't really have any other use for it. I just needed something from tier 3 that would work with my team. So this is what I picked up. There were some other options I should have grabbed, but Vanillix is what I went with. It doesn't really pair too well with my team, but it will allow, like if I set up Veil to allow Haxaris to set up, I could Gigantamax with Charizard behind Veil, and that's just broken. Because I'd get, the speed boost, and then I could get like an attack boost with a max fighting, and then just kind of clean up shop. But overall, I think Vanillix will be a good addition. There isn't really too much I can say about it, because I've never used it before, but I expect it to do good things if I do bring it. Coming up with my 7th pick, I needed an electric type. I needed a fast electric type so I could Volt Switch out and just overall do massive amounts of damage. And probably one of my favorite electric types to use in Draft League is Jolteon. Jolteon with base 130 speed and base 110 special attack. You slap a Choice Specs on this thing, and if your opponent doesn't have an electric immunity, you have free Choice Specs Volt Switch every time this thing touches the field. Because odds are, most Pokemon aren't going to outspeed it unless they're Scarfed. So this thing comes in and we'll just click Volt Switch. Even a resisted Choice Specs Volt Switch will do a good chunk of damage to whatever it hits, and it gives you really good momentum. This thing also gets Shadow Ball. I don't think it gets Signal Beam anymore, which is unfortunate. But then Hyper Voice for also just, neutral damage on most things. It got kind of gutted without Hidden Power, which is very unfortunate. However, I do believe that Jolteon was a good fit for my team. It lets me pivot in to Serena, which has U-Turn. It lets me pivot into Starmie, which has Flip Turn. Overall, I believe that Jolteon will provide the necessary pivoting and momentum that I need in order to make this draft work. Next, I was thinking, well, I need a Cleric. I need a really good Cleric, something that's bulky, something that can take hits very well, and just pass wishes off to my team, something with Heal Bell even, and I wanted a normal type, just so ghost Pokemon don't clean up my team too well. I think a lot of you know where this is going, but I did decide to draft Licky, and some people might think that that's a weird pick for my team, because, actually, no, the more I look at it, the more it fits my team well, because its only weakness is fighting, and I have 3 really good fighting resists. And, well, 2 fighting resists and 1 immunity, bear in mind. So overall, Licky, mainly there for, just to be an overall general annoyance with Wish Passing, Heal Bell. So yeah, Wish, Heal Bell, Protect, and then whatever filler move I need. Probably Body Slam most weeks, could be Earthquake, could be, if like there's terrain, I could bring Steel Roller. Licky, I believe, just fits the team really well and will provide the needed Cleric support for the team. There's really not too much to say about it. It was mainly like the first few picks I had a lot to say, and then going into it, I'm just filling in holes. The next pick I decided to get, I was sitting there, and I was planning on getting Claydol for a ground type. To be another electric immunity. I was really hoping that I could get Claydol, but Brendan, just a couple picks before me, decided to pick up Claydol for himself, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll just get another ground type. It's no big deal. And then I saw this sitting there, and anybody who knows me knows I love this Pokemon. But I decided to pick up Mudbray. And some of you are thinking, why would you pick up Mudbray? Mudbray doesn't do anything. This thing has base 100 attack. You slap an EVO Light on this thing, and this thing can 1v1 some Gmax Pokemons. Like, if Gengar Gmax doesn't run Icy Wind to max Spidef, Mudbray 1v1s Gigantamax Gengar. Unless it sets up a nasty plot first. But, like, this thing's able to come in on a Gengar and basically 2-hit KO the Gigantamax with no attack investment. Mudbray is an overall nuisance. Like, a lot of people don't expect this to do good, but depending on the matchup, Mudbray can come in and just wreck house. Like, it can 1v1, like, Colossal, it can 1v1, I believe, Gigantamax, Sizzlipede, whatever, Centiskorch, that's what it is. It can 1v1 Centiskorch, even if it has maxed Overgrowth, because, If I run max physical defense, max overgrowth will give me the Spidef boost, and it'll help counteract that terrain boosted. However, I don't expect Sizzlipede to be able to do too much against Mudbray either. Overall, Mudbray is going to be a general annoyance, and I can't wait to use it again. And y'all think I'm crazy, but it's going to put in work, just watch. It might not get as much kills as I want it to, but it'll put fear in the boots of my opponents. So I believe there is only two more, no, there's only one more pick. There's only one more pick. I just scrolled down. There's only one more pick left, and I was like, I kind of want webs for myself. And Shuckle was right there. Shuckle doesn't do too much other than setting up hazards and then, you know, dying. But that's all I really need it for. And there's not too much to say about Shuckle, just sticky webs, stealth rocks. It's fairly bulky, but doesn't have the HP stat to back up its bulk. But that is the Minnesota Lycanrocs for IBL Season 8. Now, some of you have probably noticed one thing. Where's my fairy type? So that is the weakness that I have, at least I have to deal with for week 1. But I plan going into week 2 to make some changes to the team to add a fairy type so I have a dragon immunity. Because right now, week 1, my opponent could bring a Draco spam and just hit my team with dragon moves. But my opponent for week 1 is Incog and the Boston Cyndaquils. I will see you all next week for week 1. And let's hope we can pull off a dub, and let's hope we can win out this season. Let's hope we can take our second title. Because those of you that don't know, I do have one title that was in a league that I don't believe was uploaded. But let us see if we can do some good. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe if you are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, and God bless.